Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today I'm going to be doing another installation in my new series on this channel, which is my top 12. And today the subgenre that I'm going to be diving into are my top 12 good for her thriller and horror books. If you don't know what a good for her book is, it's where we have this female main character who is morally gray, or in some of these books just completely horrible and immoral. Like, we got some female murderers up in here, but for some reason we are rooting for this morally gray woman and we just want to say, you know what, good for her. Good for her killing these people. And obviously this is all fiction. We are not trying to glorify any true crime or tragedies or anything like that. So I will be telling you guys my top 12 good for her recommendations. But before we get into the books, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Free Prints. Free Prints is a photo printing and delivery service where you can order photo prints or really cool photo products. They have a variety of interesting photo products and get it delivered right to your door for a very, very affordable price. Y'all know me, I love photos. I'm a big Instagram girl. I have photos all over my apartment. I will show you the prints that I ordered from Free Prints. I used them to make 2 of the gallery walls in our new apartment, and I just think they look so good. I've tried to print photos from other places, other printing services, and none are nearly as affordable as Free Prints. They have a lot of gifts on their website that you can put photos in, make it really easy for the holidays to get something for like those distant relatives you don't really know what to get, or like in-laws. What do? You go to Free Prints. They also have a lot of cool stuff on their app, how to like customize the photos. I will show you here how you can customize a print to look like a Polaroid, change the color, add text. So Free Prints is a great service, and it's even better that they gave me a code to share with you guys. If you use my code HaileyHughes15, you can get 15 free prints with free shipping to your door. There's no catch. It's simply just free. So if you've been wanting to make a gallery wall, or you want to order some photos to put in holiday cards or something like that, definitely go down below, download Free Prints, and use my code. Get your free prints. Thank you so much to Free Prints for sponsoring this video. Now let's go ahead and get into the books. So before I get into my top 12 like actual thriller horror recommendations, I do have a couple honorable mentions. And these are not in the 12 because I think they're kind of niche, they're kind of weird, and they're not for everyone, but they're definitely for me and they're definitely good for her. So I did want to mention them. The first one is the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey. This is a series of 5 super short novellas. I believe they're each around 100 pages. And we follow a female serial killer. It's also a dark romance because she ends up having a romance with the FBI agent who's investigating her case. Little does he know his girlfriend is literally the murderer that he's looking for. And it's a good for her book because our main character is only committing these murders out of revenge. She is avenging the trauma that she had gone through as a young girl, and it is just heartbreaking and it really makes you root for her. These books are kind of crazy and ridiculous and require a lot of suspension of disbelief, but I absolutely love them. I know they're not for everyone, but I did have to mention it. On a similar vein, I want to recommend Go Down Hard by Ali C.A. This book follows 2 serial killers, a female serial killer and a male serial killer, who are neighbors. They move in next door to each other and they in some way figure out that each other they're killers. They're both killers and they live right there next to each other. So you don't know the whole book if they're going to have this like dynamic duo serial killer relationship and like fuck basically or if they're gonna kill each other. But the guy obviously has like some fucked up motives for being a serial killer, so we are rooting for her to take him out or dom him the entire book. And again, It's not for everyone. It's kind of weird, but it's definitely for me. Honorable weird mentions aside, I do want to jump into the actual recs, starting with My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This is a thriller set in Nigeria, and we're following two sisters, one of which is a serial killer, and the other of which cleans up after her sister's messes when she eventually ends up killing the guys that she is dating. I think this book is really unique because yes, we see this like salacious, crazy female killer and we just want to root for her and watch her slash these horrible men as she's dating them. But at the same time, we see the sister's perspective and all the trauma that she's going through cleaning up these bodies. So it offers a really different look at a good for her book. And I just really loved it. It was so short, so fast paced. I read it super fast, so intriguing. I love these characters. It's a great one. My next recommendation is not only my favorite good for her book, but definitely one of my favorite books of all time. And that is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. I love this book so much. It is part of a trilogy. There are 3 books in this series that follow Lana. And I love Lana. She's probably my favorite female protagonist I've ever read from. She is a cam girl and she's also a serial killer, and she doesn't want to be a serial killer. She wants to abide by the law. So she just locks herself in her apartment and she does her cam girl thing,
work from home vibes,
and she doesn't leave. She gets all of her food and everything delivered and she just cams and locks herself in there so she doesn't kill people, until she sees something while she's camming that gives her cause for concern and lets her know that there might be a girl out there who's in danger. So she comes to this decision that she's gonna let herself out. And she's afraid that she might kill someone, but at the same time, she might have to save the girl out there. It is so ridiculous, so over the top, so high stakes. I loved every single second of it. It's crazy, it's gory, it's sexy. It is everything I wanted from a good for her book. And Lana is such a sympathetic main character, despite this like perceived lack of empathy that she thinks she has. I think she's really complex and really self-aware. She actually has 2 therapists, and the way that she talks to both of them is so funny and just like so real. Honestly, as a therapist, we therapists know when you're deceiving us, when you're lying to us, like you're not slick. And just watching this one therapist like know that she has something to hide but not knowing exactly what it is. Ooh, I've been on that. I've been on both sides of that. Like it is just, this book is perfect. I love it. It is over the top and ridiculous, but if you can suspend your disbelief, it's so good. This whole series is so good. Next up, we have what I feel is like the OG good for her book, and that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to how this is a good for her book because I believe that has spoilers in it, but I will tell you a little bit of a synopsis, and if for some reason you haven't read this, you gotta get on it and watch the movie because it is phenomenal. It's one of my favorites. So this book is following a woman's disappearance. She's a housewife, and one day she's just gone missing. Her husband gets home. It looks like there's been a struggle in the home, and the entire book, we are convinced that this man had something to do with her disappearance. However, it might have been someone else, someone that we least expect, who wanted revenge. I'm gonna leave it at that. This is the OG, this is the blueprint, pay your respects. Next up, we have My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This book follows a serial killer duo, a husband and wife who kill women together. But there's a really specific focus on the wife character in this book. She is a lot more complex and, in my opinion, much more unhinged than the husband. And an interesting thing about this book is that the male character, the husband, really only exists to further characterize the wife. I don't think we ever learn his name. I believe he's just like him or the husband the entire book, or at least not that I remember. And I just think that's really cool, the way that this character is developed. Obviously, she's a serial killer. She's a horrible person, but we're rooting for her the entire time. And this book goes absolutely sicko mode. It pops off at the end. So if you're a fan of twists, you gotta pick this one up. Next up, I have more of a summary good for her thriller, and that is We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. This follows two best friends who are long distance best friends. So every year in the summer, they get together and they go on this vacation together to bond, to spend time, to see each other since they spend most of the year apart. And on last year's vacation, they ended up having to kill a man in self-defense. In the aftermath of this, one of the friends is super fucked up about it, super traumatized, but the other girl seems like she might have gotten some sick satisfaction from it, and our main character gets even more suspicious when the same situation seems to pop up again on this year's vacation. And our main character starts to wonder, is her best friend just a killer? It's so fast-paced, and it says so much about toxic female friendship. Oh my God, it is just, there's so many layers in this book, but it's also just like dramatic and fun and summery. It has everything. Next up, I want to talk about one of my favorite books of this year, which is Blood Sugar by Sasha Rothschild. This is another summery good for her thriller. We are following our main character, Ruby, who lives in Miami. The atmosphere is great. It's very summery. I read this one by the pool, perfect atmosphere. And this is a completely character-driven novel. So it's not going to be for everyone, but it's definitely for me because this character is one of the most intriguing women I've ever read from the perspective of. She is a killer, but not in the traditional sense. She's not premeditated. She just kind of like helps the world along. If it seems like someone's about to get hit by a bus and she knows they're a bad person, she'll just let it happen. Maybe give them a little into the street. If someone looks like they might be drowning and she knows that they were a sexual assaulter or a bully, she'll just like hold their head under. And these kind of kills and the way that she goes after mostly immoral, horrible men just makes you root for her. And she's also a therapist, which I love. Obviously, I'm a therapist, so having therapist representation I think is really cool, especially following like a completely morally gray therapist. Obviously, that's so fucked up, but it was so intriguing for me to read about. She's such a complex person, and you can never tell if you're completely on her side or not the entire time that you're reading. All you know is that you're loving what's unfolding in front of you, and you can completely understand why she is the way she is, whether you agree with it or not. The setting was perfect, the twists were perfect, the character development is flawless. Like, I love this book. I would recommend this book to anyone. Even if you're not a character-driven reader, I would say give it a try. Next up, we got a classic. Y'all knew this one would be here. They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This is a dark academia bisexual fantasy. We follow a professor at a college who teaches her little English classes, like has her little normal life, but she also takes care of the male professors and students at the university who slight women, assault women, and the school does nothing about it. She's kind of like the cleanup crew for the bad apples on staff. And it's a dual timeline as we follow her, our serial killer POV, as well as a young girl at the university who may be taken advantage of and need our main character's help. It's so sinister and so twisty. I love the twists in this book. It's so good. I know the twists in here are controversial, but to me, they really worked. And I just love the character development. Like the way that all of these books really dig into feminine rage. Oh, it's just chef's kiss. Amazing. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Next up, we have another one of my favorite books of the year, The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. And this follows a woman who is just a normal little housewife. She's listening to a true crime podcast. She's just, you know, living her boring but content life when all of a sudden the true crime podcast starts talking about her friend from college and her murder. And she's like,
Wait, I know about that. That has to do with me. I'm a witness. Hello.
And she gets involved in this thing that goes a lot deeper and is a lot more sinister than she initially thought. And along the way, starts unpacking her trauma as she is a part of this true crime podcast. It is visceral and it is dark, but it is important. Yes, this book is hard to read. It is extremely dark and disturbing, but this is something that needs to be read, that needs to be talked about. It's not just, women undergoing violent circumstances for no reason. If you really look past the darkness and into the commentary and what this book is making you feel and how that feeling is so familiar if you're a woman walking about this earth, it just means so, so much. If you're a survivor, I truly believe that this could be therapeutic for you. Obviously, be self-aware, be a good judge of yourself. Don't do anything that's going to hurt you or something that would be way too triggering for you. But for me, this was deeply therapeutic. And in that last scene, I was rooting. I was rooting for her. We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Like, it's so good. It is so good. Next up, we have a horror novella, and that is The Murders of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson. This is a little bit of sci-fi horror, but it's definitely good for her because we are following our main character, Molly, who has to be a killer. She has no other choice because every time she bleeds, evil clones of herself are spawned and they want to kill her. So she has to kill them before they kill her, the original Molly, and take over her life. This is another very complex and nuanced woman who is just so interesting to follow. We follow her as she goes to school, as she's navigating dating, and just being inside her head is so fun. She's like cold and calculated, but then she has these moments of real vulnerability, and it just gives you such a depth of understanding for the trauma that she has to go through killing these clones. Oh my god, it's so good. And I read the whole series during Halloween, and I absolutely recommend it. It's so, so amazing. Sticking with horror novellas, I want to recommend One Bloody Thing After Another by Joey Como. Oh my god, we'll never get over this cover. This is another one of my favorite books of the year. It is just unmatchable. Like, I don't even know if I can describe this book. It's that good. There are just so many layers, but we're basically following at the heart of it this young girl who is discovering that she's queer, and she doesn't know what to do with that. She knows that she's in love with her best friend, and she's just like,
well, here we are.
And she has all of these feelings coming up that she doesn't know how to handle. So she deals with them through violence. This is also some weird horror, which I personally love. There is a mom who they have to lock in the basement because she wants to be a cannibal. There is a quirky old man and his little curmudgeon-y dog. It's cuttingly funny, deeply vulnerable and dark and gory. It's just everything that I could ever want wrapped up in a horror book, and you are rooting for this sweet little baby angel girl. I saw a lot of myself in her. I think other queer women could see yourselves in her. It's just this book deserves so much more hype. Getting back into thrillers, I want to recommend The Collective by Allison Galen. We are following in this book a mother whose daughter was murdered, and the alleged murderer of her daughter just got away scot-free. It's kind of like a Brock Turner situation where he's just coming from a white wealthy family, so he gets off on like no charge at all for the death of this girl that he probably caused. And this mother is not willing to let that go. She will go to the ends of the earth to avenge her daughter and make sure this dude gets what he deserves. And along the way, she gets wrapped up in the dark web with a collective of other women who would also like to take care of horrible men. This book is so fast-paced. I was on the edge of my seat reading this. It's so twisty. You care so much about it. You cannot put it down. I rarely use the word unputdownable because I think it's overused with thrillers, but this one, unputdownable. I read it so quick in 2 sittings in like a matter of hours. Next up, I have Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. We are following another housewife in this book, and she gets rid of her husband, takes care of him, the body's disposed of, but then her husband's body is discovered, but not in the place where she had intended for it to be discovered. So we're wondering what happened in the moments between when she last saw her husband's body and when the police discovered him. Did he wake up? Did somebody else come and kill him? What the hell happened? And our narrator is completely unreliable. We have no idea whether to trust her. We have no idea whether she actually killed him or not, or if she's delusional. And I had so much fun getting to know her and parsing out what I could trust and what I couldn't with this character. This book went a lot darker than I expected, and I was so pleasantly surprised by it. And the last book, the 12th book to round out my top 12 good for her recs, is The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. And this one is really, really long, okay? It's like 600 pages. It's a chunk of a chunk of a chunk.
She is massive.
So it is kind of an undertaking, and I'm not gonna lie, it does drag a little bit. But if you can handle a long book, if you're ready to strap in for the journey, this one is well worth it. It is a horror book that's kind of slow, kind of meandering, definitely highly character driven. And we're following 3 women, a grandmother, mother, and daughter, in this family as they go through the violence pandemic. The violence is a disease that is broken out across the country. And when you get it, you just go absolutely batshit crazy with violence. And you kill the first person that you see in front of you, just go crazy, tear them to shreds. Well, the mother in the trio of women that we're following, she is in an abusive relationship with her husband. So she decides she's going to use the violence and the fear of this pandemic to her advantage and use that to possibly escape her abusive marriage with her children. This goes way beyond just that plot. There are so many different layers and like weird things that are put in here, but again, I love weird horror, so it didn't bother me at all. I actually really liked it. And the way that this goes into generational trauma is some of the best discussions of trauma rep that I've ever read in a fictional book. We're definitely rooting for all 3 women in this book. Whether we like them or agree with their actions or not, it is the epitome of a good for her thriller. So those are the top 12 good for her books that I wanted to recommend you, but I also wanted to mention the good for her books that are on my TBR. So y'all need to let me know down below if I need to prioritize these, if you like these, or you can just get more to add to your TBR, but just know that I don't fully condone them. These recs are not vetted, okay? I haven't read them. First up on this list, I have my little list here. I have Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian. I also have Temper by Lane Fargo, which I'm going to be reading this month. Her Body and Other Parties, which I actually have up there, along with In the Dream House by the same author. I really want to get to both of those. Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, I'm gonna say. I read something from McGinnis before that I didn't love, so we'll see about that one. And We Are All the Same in the Dark by Julia Heberlin. So that is the rest of my good for her TBR. Let me know if I should prioritize any of those in particular that y'all love. Let me know if you would want a good for her reading vlog with me reading a couple of those. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to go down below and check out free prints. Use my code haileyhughes15 and get your free prints and free shipping. Don't forget to go to therapy and read a book this week. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!